At the start of the film, there is a scene in which a young boy is seen taking pictures of a very large structure. In point of fact, he was looking for an interesting story to write. So he will get a lot of money with it as he needs money. After that, he enters the building that he was photographing outside of earlier. He is aware of the peculiar occurrences that are said to take place in this mansion. And the people used to say this is a haunted building, that's why the boy come inside it. He wants to know what is inside the building. His name was Jiko and sees a boy standing behind him. As he turns, the boy disappears. Jiko meets the caretaker or the manager of the building. He inquires about the paranormal activity in this building and says, "I've heard the weird things happen in this building," and turns his tape recorder on. The manager agrees and tells him the building he is seeing was an orphan house before. Many kids lived here, then one day this building caught fire and the kids died being burnt. He says, "Let me tell you the incident that happened to this building. Listen, I will tell you a writer's story about who has rented a room in this building. He wanted peace in his life, so he will find a nice story, so he will write it like you because he has a son at his home. He used to disturb him. Well, now he was focusing on his story and was writing it. Suddenly, he feels that the kids are playing on the ground floor. The writer tells the dealer about all this, but the dealer knows that none lived on the ground floor. He also knows the place is haunted, but the dealer wasn't telling him anything because of money. The dealer has to give this room for rent to that writer somehow. People can do anything for the sake of money, as the writer doesn't know the building is haunted. The writer was alone in the room and goes for drinking water, but when he returns his laptop disappeared. The writer turns and hears the laugh of a boy, ha ha ha, then the door opens. Immediately. Then his laptop falls down and he sees a boy while crawling. The writer doesn't find anything when he goes near. Now he decides to go to the ground floor from where he heard the kid's voice. The writer finds many shoe pairs of the kids and throws them into the garbage, being enraged. That night his door knocks, and when he opens the door he sees the pair of shoes he threw in the garbage were in front of his door. Then his door knocks again, and when he sees on his other side he sees the burnt kids. The writer falls down being scared because the souls of the burnt kids were hanged. They end the writer there. Now the story again shifts to Jiko, and he was asking, then what happened to that writer? The manager doesn't reply and says, "Tell me something about you," and the manager says, "We always care about that whom we are making our friend." The manager says, "Let me tell you another story." Jiko actually wants a haunted horror story. He wants a nice story, otherwise he will lose his job. The manager now tells another story about a pharmacist girl. She was lovely and comes to her room after a shower, and the radio was on in her room. There was news on it that a man has murdered his wife and his 9-year-old son. The police are in search of that man, but she was talking to her mother and she was making her understand not to be in a relationship with anyone. Her mother was deceived by her father, that's why she was advising her daughter. She doesn't listen to her mother and disconnects the call, and a boy's picture is shown with her. We discover the girl was already in a relationship with her friend. At night her friend arrives at her home being tensed, and the girl asks him what happened. The boy tells, "My wife discovered everything about us, now I have to stay with you for a few days." The girl says, "You can live with me for the rest of my life." The next day, the girl was going to her job. Meanwhile, 2 police officers come to her. They were asking about her friend while showing his picture. Does she know him? He has murdered his wife and his son. Hearing this, she goes to her home immediately and calls her friend. We discover the news on the radio about her friend. When she comes inside, her friend was taking a shower. She says, "The police have discovered everything and we have to leave soon. Otherwise, the police will catch you," but her friend was saying, "Don't tell anything to anyone." Then someone knocks at that girl's door, but she gets shocked to see that her friend is outside her room. She gets scared that if her friend is outside, who is taking a shower inside? She calls her real friend inside and shows him while pointing toward the washroom that if you are here, then who is inside? Her friend also notices a man like him taking shower inside the washroom. Then it is shown how the boy ended his wife and son. A hammer is shown in his hand with which he has ended his wife and son. The scene around changes and the walls of the house were soaked with blood. There was an evil spirit who was taking a shower. It says, "I have asked you not to tell anything to anyone," and then the screen turns black. It means the evil spirit will have needed the girl and her friend. After this, the manager starts his third story, and this was of the dealer who gave a room for rent to that writer. The dealer didn't tell the writer that the building was haunted. Now the dealer is shown having food while sitting at the table. He was talking to someone and it feels like he is talking to his wife. Then we see the person with whom he was talking, and it was a doll, not his wife. It was just a doll whom he was treated like his wife. The next day, the dealer was talking on the phone and then a wrapped dead body is shown. It was of his wife and he has kept her body wrapped in a plastic sheet. He has ended his wife. Maybe he was mentally disturbed or there was something wrong with him. He keeps a doll as his wife and then he feels his sink is leaking and it was dirty water when he turned and the dead body of his wife disappeared. The hand of the dead body appears from the sink when he sees inside the sink, so he turns the tap off. The condition of the dealer gets worse after seeing this. The dealer is shown in the next scene having food with the doll the next day. Suddenly, he hears voices from the sink and when he sees towards the sink his doll falls from behind. He sees at the doll and there was his wife's dead body in front of him. Now the dealer got scared after seeing all this and locked himself in a room. He hears the voices like his wife's dead body was coming out of the plastic. He hides inside a cupboard. Meanwhile, his doll comes behind him, and here the scene cuts. Now the manager has told 3 stories to the manager. After listening to the dealer's story, he goes to the dealer who was still alive but he has lost his hands. The thing that is in this mansion has cut that dealer's hands. He wasn't ended but he had become insane. The dealer says something strange about cult and church but Jiko doesn't understand what he was saying. Now Jiko goes to his publisher with these 3 stories. The publisher says the stories are excellent and horror but you have to make them huge. Due to it, the interest of the audience will increase and you will get money. Jiko needs money, so he again goes inside the building to see the manager and asks the manager to tell him more stories. I need more stories. The manager laughs and says you still think those stories are less, so you should leave this mansion because it is just those stories. Jiko has become enraged and says listen to me, you have to tell me more stories and you have to tell me about the incidents that happened here. For this, I am ready to give anything. He takes out his recorder and listens to the story from the manager. He laughs and says think now. He was telling Jiko another story. Jiko was recording this 4th story as he had recorded the previous 3. This was of a boy who come to live with his friend in this building and went abroad for studying. He failed due to some reason and returned. He started living with his friend and became happy meeting his friend. The boy finds many pimples on his friend's face and his face was itching, which was strange. The boy finds the rotten food in his friend's house but his friend was eating it like it was fresh and tasty. He gets shocked to see his friend. The next day, his friend goes for his job and the boy sees his house and opens the fridge. There was rotten food and he cleaned his friend's house. He sees his friend's room, but it has a weird odor as there was fungus in his room. There was a picture of his friend with his parents but it was also dirty and full of fungus. He cleans his friend's room, but he gets shocked when his friend returns home. He starts beating his friend. That is why he tried to clean his house. How dare you touch my parents? The boy was feeling weird as he gets scared because he believes there are evil spirits in the house who is black marks. He packs his luggage and gets ready to leave. Meanwhile, he feels an odor because the room he cleansed was again like before. The black marks and fungus appeared in this painting. Meanwhile, his friend arrives and his face has become weird. When he removed his hand from his face there was fungus on his face. Now it was clear that his friend wasn't alive, he was dead. When this boy moves behind being scared, the black hands appear in the painting and they take the boy inside the painting. Then the door of the room closes and the clear thing was the boy was ended in this building. The story shifts to the present on Jiko and he asks the manager if this building is made by any cult. Here, the manager gives Jiko the key to a room and says if you want to know the truth, go and discover it. The room whose key was given to Jiko is numbered 1504. It was the last room in this building. As he goes inside the room he finds a tape there. He turns it on and it was the tape of the manager, and then another scene is shown. Jiko's friend is shown who was thinking about him. It was Jiko's birthday and he has missed his birthday because of his investigation. One day, his friend sees the 3 recorded stories by Jiko when the manager tells him. The shocking thing is when his friend hears this there was only Jiko's voice and the man whom interview he was taking there wasn't his voice. Then she understands Jiko's life is in danger. She immediately moves to the building on another side. Jiko is shown in the tape he was holding. Suddenly, a voice comes from it. Listen Jiko, if you are listening, so you want to know the truth and I will tell you this story. It means this last 5th story is of the manager. The manager tells him the story that he was like him when he came first to this building. The difference is you have come here in search of a story and I came for a robbery with my friend, and then the story of the manager is shown. The manager is shown with his friend talking to each other while sitting in the car. Here we discover the building was made by a person who worships demons. Their money was in a room in this building and the manager and his friend need money because his friend's mother was in the hospital. His friend needs money for the treatment of his mother. That is the reason they have come to this building for a robbery. Now they go to room 1504 and its key was given to Jiko by the manager. They find the dead body of the cult's leader. Meanwhile, his friend sees the hairs coming out of the cupboard. As he goes near, the hairs disappear. The manager is skeptical, and there are anklet bracelets tied around that leader's feet. There was a cloth as well, and the manager said, "Do you know this dead body can be revived? That's why this dead body is chained." His friend was saying, "Listen to me, I don't think this place is safe, we should leave soon." Then the manager finds a key from that dead body's mouth that was in the cupboard. Near it, his friend saw hair and the manager opened it. The manager finds a lot of money and becomes happy seeing it and says, "Look, we have become rich." Then his friend hears the anklet voice from behind and he turns to see, but there was none. He again turns and sees the dead body near his face. They revive the dead body and the manager's friend come outside the building after seeing the dead body. He was about to start his car and the manager also sits in the car and his friend says, "Where were you?" "Look, I've brought money." The manager says, "Do you want to see the thing you left?" Meanwhile, the manager's friend sees his foot that was the dead body's feet as there were anklet bracelets on them. As he sees upside, that wasn't the manager but it was that dead body. It came to his friend in the manager's getup and then ends his friend as well. Then the scene shifts to Jiko and he again sees the dead body. He again hides in the cupboard from which the manager has taken out the money. Meanwhile, the manager arrives and says, "The time I have spent with you was nice and I will miss you." While saying this he adopts Jiko's getup. Jiko gets shocked to see this and here we discover the people around the church discovered there is devil worship in this building. Later, the dead body of the cult leader was locked in this room, some anklet bracelets were tied to him and was imprisoned with a power. The manager has ruined everything for the sake of money due to it, and the dead body revived and the manager has ended everyone who has come to live here. The dead body adopts the getup whom it likes. Now Jiko was locked in the cupboard forever, but Jiko's friend arrives and becomes surprised to see Jiko there. Suddenly, his eyes turn black, and passes a weird smile. It means he was none other than the cult leader who is an evil spirit. Jiko's friend has realized that he isn't Jiko. Here this film concludes with this sad incomplete ending.